Hello, 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 everyone. This is Dr. David. Welcome to Magic Tuesday. I am actually coming to you live from my hotel room in Irvine, California, where we just finished Daoist Chinese energetic medicine training 4. I'm not taking them in order, but so I just decided to check in. Thank you, Alessandro. I decided to check in and see how everybody's doing, and find out what's on your mind this Magic Tuesday, because I've just spent the last 3 days learning all kinds of really cool symbol magic and things of that nature. So you got me for a little while before I got to check in on other things. So tell me, what do you guys want to learn? What do you want to talk about today? What do you want to know about? So let's see here. Any questions? Balliet Brand says, much love, David, for all that you've taught me over the years. Much love back, Balliet. Luis Nava says, hello, Dr. Snyder. Good to see you here. Good to be here, my friends. So talk to me. What's on your minds this Tuesday? What do you want to talk about? What do you guys, what direction do you guys want to go? Right. By the way, how many of you, by a show of hands in the chat, have taken the time to run over to globalgurus.org and cast your votes for the #1 NLP dude of 2023? If you have, type it in the chat. If you have not, type it in the chat, and I will post the link if you're willing to do that. Do I have any upcoming trainings? Yes, I have several upcoming trainings. What kind of trainings are you interested in, Alessandro? Oh, wait, we have a $5 donation from AP. Imagine you're in a sales cycle with a client for software. They're excited, on board, and then they start to ghost you. Tactics on getting them back. Yes. Start with the following subject line. Dear so-and-so, have you given up? Dot, dot, dot. Trust me, they will call you back. What you do with them after that, well, that's up to you. So I typed for AP, I typed it in the chat. That particular subject line, that particular approach actually comes from Chris Voss in his book, Never Split the Difference. I have found it to be an extremely powerful subject line and an extremely powerful way to approach people who are ghosting you, either through text or through voice. They may be a little defensive when they call you back, but they will call you back, right? You could get a little bit more aggressive and go with something like, dear so-and-so, why did you quit? Or are you quitting? Right? These are all very provocative. Nobody likes to be thought of as a quitter or someone who can't go the distance. So they will call you back. But they may be a little bit on the defensive, so you better have good rapport skills. Susan says, yeah, voted last week. Alessandra says, hypnotherapy trainings. Yes, we have we have a covert hypnosis training coming up in January. And then we have a conversational hypnosis advanced training coming up in February. And then in March, we have Identity by Design hypnotherapy certification. That's where I start. That's where I like to start everybody at, because Identity by Design just takes you from zero to hero, from knowing nothing to being like unstoppable, right? I don't know if I was divinely inspired when I got the downloads or I put that course together, but the combination of the particular curriculum, the way the training is done, it just, you embody the skills so fast and so deeply that there's really nothing that comes your way that you can't figure out. So there's lots of people in the chat who've actually been through the Identity by Design system. So by all means, if you have any feedback or things like that, I'd ask you to post your, will IBD be hybrid? There's a high probability, Susan, there will be a high probability that going forward there will be more hybrid trainings. Again, I'm gonna get on my soapbox for a minute, but then I'm going to tell you one of the things I've learned the hard way. First and foremost is that post-COVID reality, once people got used to sitting behind their screens, it's become almost impossible to get them out. Now there will always be people who want to be in the room and who want to absorb the full vibe. But the truth is, I predicted this actually right at the beginning of COVID when everybody was in lockdown. So one of the things that's happened is because people have become so hesitant, and not just me, but trainings all over are suffering. People are becoming so hesitant to come out to live events that it's forced me to really rethink how to maximize attendance while at the same time maintaining quality of students. And so we're probably going to be doing more hybrid stuff as a standard operating procedure. But hybrid options will almost always, there won't be any price breaks or anything like that. And the requirements for repetitions will actually be much more stringent. But the good news is you can attend from home. You don't have to pay for a hotel room. You don't have to pay for airfare unless you really want to come out and train in person. But the repetitions and the amount of reps that you get in will probably be doubled. So, because my commitment is to you, not just to give you the knowledge, but to make sure that you embody the skill. That's what I'm looking at. So yes, going forward, there will be more hybrid events. In fact, we were one of the first people to pioneer hybrid events back in the beginning of COVID. But at the same time, we want to maintain the quality. So, in spite of the fact that you know the old saying, you want to hear the universe laugh, you want to hear God laugh, telling me plans. I remember vividly staying in front of my YouTube audience and my Zoom audience and my live audience and said, I will never certify people virtually. Well, apparently God heard me and he's having a big belly laugh right now. So you do what you got to do to get the people out there. But yes, so the short answer is yes, there will be more hybrid events, but I'm not going to make them easy. So I'm just letting you guys know that yes, you can attend from home, you can practice virtually, but the requirements that you're going to have to complete for certification will be significantly higher than if you're in the room. Now, unfortunately, shit rolls downhill. So my poor students in the live events are probably going to have to do the same amount of reps. But it'll just make them better. So, all right. So Seth Breedbart says, so the definition of hypnosis includes the establishment of acceptable selective thinking, but you never specify acceptable to whom. I think it's acceptable to me, and that's all that matters. AP says, thanks. Stacy, post the link. Although, let me grab that link for you guys really quick. And I thank you, by the way, for those of you who did vote, and a ton of you did, I want to thank you so much for your support. I really, really try to bring as much value and problem solving to your life as I can through our events and our free offerings and things of that nature. So you can get to the point where you want to come out to a live event and take your skills further. So I'm going to post the link in just a second. Go to that link, scroll down there. You may have to create a free account in order to vote. Just fill that out. There's no charge or anything like that. I don't think Global Gurus doesn't really spam people, so you should be okay. So it's globalgurus.org/NLP. Go ahead and click that link and go ahead and cast your vote. AP is asking another question. Lost 30 pounds in 3 months, have another 30 to go. When you lost weight, how did you be patient and happy with progress doing kickboxing and eating clean? Okay, so first of all, I am not a patient dude. And so the weight loss systems that I went on were by most people's definitions rigorous and very, very difficult, but they were short term. I don't recommend those for most people. One of the things I've seen, and I've seen this with me as well as other people, weight that comes off fast tends to come back fast. Weight that comes off slow tends to stay off for longer periods of time. So again, there's many different approaches to weight loss. The first thing I recommend is don't put a time limit on your weight loss. Okay. Congratulate yourself for the small victories. There will be plateaus. There will be backslides. Don't beat yourself up about that. Just start over. Okay. But clean up your emotions. Clean up the reasons why you're eating. If you're substituting food for security or food for love or food for anything other than physical nutrition, you need to disconnect those associations, because those are the things that will trigger you to eat when you're not hungry. Surround yourself with people who have good eating habits. One of the things that keeps getting drummed into my head, as well as my fellow students, is your friends are stronger than your will. And so if you surround yourself by people who support you, who have the same mindset as you, in the same direction as you, then adopting the behaviors and the discipline, for lack of a better word, that necessary to achieve those goals is much simpler, as opposed to being surrounded by people who are chowing down on Sundays and pizza and beer and all the things that in that moment you love to eat, but then you pay for weeks on end, because a moment on the lips, weeks on the hips, or months on the hips, right? So let's see here. There's Linus says, David, hello. Nathaniel says, have you done any Jeremy Minor trainings? His stuff is very similar to yours and James. James might be a good opportunity to do. I don't know the person. I've never heard of them. Nathaniel says it's sales training. But okay. IBD, that is. Okay. IBD is life-changing. Nathaniel says, Whiskey South says, hey, David, I'm living with someone who seems to have more anxiety than anyone I've ever met and is so wound up and tense. Any tips on mellowing someone like this out? I have many tips. The question becomes, are they willing to do it? Do they see their anxiety as a problem, and what are they willing to do to get it? And are they approaching you for help with it? One of the things I keep getting beaten into my head as I get deeper and deeper into the mystic training, the medical qigong trainings, you can't chase people to heal them. They have to come to you. And if they're not coming to you, then it's going to be short term at best. You're going to get a very low compliance. So Frank Richards is saying, I appreciate all your material. I'm struggling with maintaining state when I'm trying to approach new people. Okay. What state are you trying to maintain? And what is the meaning that you're putting on that interaction? What movies are you running in your head about what this interaction means to you? Because that's where most of the problems will be. Hold on a second. The Way 126 experience, 1999. Where does your Daoist practices come from? Which lineage? I'm a 66th generation holder in one sect and 126th. Mao Shan, Zheng Yi. Mao Shan absorbed the Ling Bao tradition many generations ago. My teacher is one is 81st generation, other is 18th generation. And there's one more, I can't remember. What's funny is he just went over it in class today. But yeah, he's Mao Shan and Zheng Yi. If you want to know who my teacher is, Dr. Jerry Allen Johnson, and his disciples, Diego San Miguel, Chris Holder, Sifu William Welch. These are the guys, and Sifu Harinder Singh. These are the guys, the inner circle that I'm training with. So I'm very open about who I train with. In fact, I got a bunch of my inner circle students in the same classes as me. It's kind of funny. Susan says Berdona. Let's see here. Hypno Findom Rand says, do the drills, get the skills. You got it, baby. Susan says, personally, I just have too many elderly animals, so online is a blessing. Yes. Look, people have their own reasons for not getting on a plane. They have family engagements. They're caregivers. I get that. One of the things that I've always been big on is people earning their change, earning their skills. And the only way I can really, up until recently, until I made this decision, and it was a hard decision for me about because when something's obviously working, I'm not keen to break it, if that makes kind of sense. But a year or so into the post-COVID and just watching the trends with people, I've had to sit back and rethink, okay, how do I do this? How do we get people to the same or approximate the same level of skill as a live event through virtual training? And so this is what I do. Like I said, impatience is my superpower. So you have to adapt to the way the world is. And this is something that, even though I preach it to everybody every now and then, the world just smacks me upside the head with it and says, look, you will never make the world the way you want it to be until you're ready to deal with the world the way that it is. And this is the world that we live in right now. Until things change, we have to adapt to this desire to just stay at home and do it virtually, right? You'd see here. Heather P, most important thing about image cycling, emotion and scene, best daily practices. I got 1 out of 15 so far crossed off my list. Well, great. Put something else on your list. So the most important thing about image cycling is that you enjoy it and that you take things off your list as they manifest. Dr. Bill Bankston, when he created image cycling and he teaches it to his students, he only had 2 rules. Avoid ritual, be playful. As long as it's fun and you're not hung up on doing it exactly the same way every time, you're golden. The way 126 says, great to know. My pleasure, right? Magic and spirituality. What are the top 10 techniques that I teach? In what niche? Magic. I mean, there's so many techniques, but a lot of them do cross over. A lot of them are universal. So if you can give me a better idea of what direction, I can give you a list. Brick T says, what advice do you have for people with retroactive jealousy, especially with partners with sexually adventurous past, but not willing to be like that anymore? It's like you can't get the partner's entirety. Okay, so I'm gonna, again, let me see if I understand in my words what you're saying, Brick. So you've got a partner who has had a very colorful past, has had a lot of adventures, so to speak, liaisons, right? And thinking about them makes you jealous. Would that be accurate, right? The problem isn't with them, it's with you, right? And so what you have to do is you have to find the feeling in your body and ask yourself, okay, how young was I when I first felt this way and who was it with? And unpack that. Because what you're dealing with when you're responding that way to a person's past, it's not about them. It's about you. And so clear that stuff up in yourself, gain some insight and wisdom as to how that came about and how you can let that go. And I think you'll find that the person's past will no longer bother you quite the same way, or at all for that matter. Julie Holmes says, have you given up? Brilliant. So using that, yeah, it's really powerful. But again, it's the more powerful the things are, that the more of a response you'll tend to get. But I've never had people fail to respond to that. So Nick Legend says, David, I found my fiance with how to make a girl fall in love in 20 minutes, OG video. Excellent. That's awesome. Patty Pacifico says, Dr. David, good evening. Is energy hypnosis speed healing the best recommendation for PTSD, other anxiety issues, depression for those new to you, NLP, or want lower cost products? That's a great place to start. Energy hypnosis, speed healing. I'm trying to think if I have anything more recent that might help. Energy hypnosis, speed healing definitely has spinning in it. It may have the magic frame. I do not know if it has color breathing in it. So color breathing is actually a really great way to kind of put the cherry on the sundae, or I want to think of it as poor man's regression, but it's a really good way to kind of get into some of the backstory about why a particular situation is the way it is, and substitute story. So that would be that would be where it's a good place to start. From there, I would go into Identity by Design or Self Mastery Supercharger. In fact, Self Mastery Supercharger might actually be a better product. It's not quite as pricey. It's more expensive than Energy Healing Speed Hypnosis, but it's not quite as pricey as Identity by Design or Regression. But it has all the same materials in it. It's just that the Self Mastery Supercharger is designed to be a self-hypnosis training program as opposed to a therapeutic training program that you might do with other people. Even though 2/3 of the training is exactly the same, whether you're going to be a therapist or working on yourself, but it has all the same materials in it. So I would recommend you start there and see where that takes you. Rick T says, is there a way to detach energetic connections to your partner to her ex completely or overwrite him? Yes, there is. However, your partner has to be the one to do it or has to have you willing to do it. Okay. In vibrational healing, might be in vibrational influence too. There are some exercises where I teach people how to reach into people's energy fields and pull out the energetic cords and connections that other people have attached to them. So that would be a very useful place to start. There are other practices that I haven't really released to the general public because they're from my Daoist and my Buddhism mystical trainings. So yeah, so that's probably if you can find, like, if I don't know what courses of mine you have, but that would probably be the best place to start. I got to find my aura ring. I did a lot of qigong today, and so I had to keep taking my rings off. I keep forgetting to put them back on. So let's see here. Valiant Brand, you're right about pre and post COVID world. It's similar to 9/11 with all the changes that happened after that. Yes. Here's what's interesting. Fun factoid is I knew what would happen when everybody went Zoom because I had seen the exact same behavior about 10 years previously. And the reason I say that is because back in the day when I was still in my Darth Snyder period, one of the notables in that field decided that they were going to do something cool and start live streaming their live events and do kind of a hybrid thing. And the side effect of that was it absolutely killed his live audience. Nobody would come to the lives anymore. And so I made a command decision. Okay, that's what happens when you give people the on-screen option. I'm not going to do that. 10 years later, COVID comes along, and boom, here we are, forced into that model, right? So the one thing I just want to put out there for all of you is that I'm not against online learning at all. In fact, I did a lot of online learning in my undergraduate education, but it's actually harder to get good online, not just because the live interaction, but because it's so easy to just take a break or walk away or not pay attention or do other things while the class is going on. Maybe, when I did my doctorate, which was all online, and I'm traveling all over the world and I'm teaching classes and I'm doing everything in this doctorate program back in the 2019, I think the one thing that probably ensured the quality of the education was that you could go back and watch the replays, but you had to actually be in the class while the class was being run live. Like, in other words, you had to be there in real time, even if you were virtual. So I'm in Australia or Thailand or Cyprus, and I'm at 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm up taking a class because I have to be there in order to get the credit, right? And so attendance was something that I think, kudos to Pacific College for being that strict about that. It's too easy to cheat. I'm in these classes now, and I'm as guilty as the next person. My Buddhism classes or my Taoism classes or my Christian mysticism classes, and 80% of the people have their screens off, right? I have a Tai Chi teacher that I train with online. If you don't have your screen on, you don't get credit for the class, right? So it's, there's all kinds of protocols and different ways that people are coming up with to make sure that we optimize our training online. Again, it's here to stay. It's not going anywhere. And we just have to suck it up and find ways to ensure quality. And that's my concern, because anybody can log in and watch a video, right? And that's why we put out so much content, because there's a lot to be said for gaining knowledge and insight. But what we really want as practitioners, as people taking an active role, is we want you to embody the skill sets. We want you to go out and play with the skills and make them yours and make changes for yourself, and then help other people and pay it forward. That's where the real gold is. That's what lets me know that I'm making a difference. It's not the subscriber count. Don't get me wrong. I'm grateful for 202,000 subscribers, and I'm grateful for all the kudos that you guys give me. But what really gets me excited, what really makes me feel like I'm doing what God sent me here to do, was when you post in the chats and on the YouTube channels and in the emails, how you took something, went out into the world and got a change and got something you wanted using the techniques. Because every time you do that, your unconscious mind logs it as a success, and it primes you to want to and be willing to do it again. So that's kind of a reward system. So not only do you get what you want for doing the technique, it primes you to want to do it again. And with more repetition, the behavior that gets rewarded gets repeated, and the behavior that gets repeated gets reinforced. And that's how you create change. Consistent steps over time in the direction of your goals, right? And so anything that reinforces that, I'm all for it, right? So I'm going to get off my my live training, Zoom training soapbox, but let's see here. Susan, if I could learn to apparate and dissipate in person, I'm not sure what you're trying to. Are you trying to say appear and disappear in person would be easier? Yes. Okay. I think you misspelled this, or maybe autocorrect did something there, Susan. Alessandro says, "How do I know if the person I'm dating is right? I've been talking to someone for a year, stable, good sexual connection, but no real strong emotions or feelings of love." Okay. Does this person make you happy? It's a very, very simple question. Does the person that you're with make you happy? Right? Or are you looking for the bigger, better deal? Most of us are kind of dealing with fool's mate. We take what we get. You know, if the person makes you happy, and if they never changed, never got any better, never got any worse, could you be happy with them for an indefinite amount of time? Right? Do you have values that are very, very similar? Right? Do you have activities that overlap? Right? All these things are important. What are the things that this person does not have that you want, if any? And how important are they? Right? These are all things we need to be asking, right? You know, it's interesting. In fact, the class I'm going to be starting tomorrow is on sex magic and chakra surgery. And so a lot of the things that have been coming up this past week have been about how are we selecting mates, and what is it that causes us to feel certain attractions on an energetic level. And it was pretty eye-opening that some of the things that we tend to sort, because we don't know any better, when we see a person, we tend to zero in on the attributes they have that we want, that we don't have. And so that sets up with its own like self-destructive energetic process. And it's a little bit more complicated than that, but basically we tend to see, when we see somebody, right, we look at all the things they have that we want, and rather than develop those things in ourselves, those qualities in ourselves, we attach to that person and try to make them responsible for satisfying those deficiencies in ourselves. And eventually what happens is those connections, some people were talking about cords a little bit earlier, those connections start to get pulled back. And that's when all the drama starts, when all the turmoil starts, right? So the first 90 days or so, you're on cloud nine, right? And all of a sudden, things that you used to overlook start to bother you a little bit. Now they start to bother you a lot. Why? Because those cords are changing. because you've made them responsible for things you're lacking without really being willing to develop those things within yourself, right? So it's really interesting on how some of these mystical practitioners really view some of these energetic interactions and how we select for mates. Okay, let's see here. Hopefully that answers and gives you guys some places to go. Dr. David, most important question. What happened to your vest? I haven't seen you wear one in quite some time. I still wear them. But what I've noticed over the past maybe 2 or 3 months is I'm wearing less and less stuff. It's really interesting. Like a couple months ago, I just stopped wearing my watch, and I still wore my little silver bangle. And then about 2-3 weeks ago, I just put it up, and it started to feel really heavy. So I think what's happening for me is that with all the things I'm doing energetically, with all the things that I'm doing in my life and the things that I'm juggling, my energies are changing, my tolerances are changing. I still wear the vests because I like them, but my desire for them is changing a little bit. So I'm tending to go a little bit more snaky, or a little bit more, leopard prints type things. But have no fear, the vests will be back very, very soon, especially once we start doing live events and stuff again, right? I can't really walk away from the vests. I'm a little invested in them, as you might say. So yes, but have no fear. And the other thing is I'm getting kind of bored with the ones that I have, to be honest. I've pretty much bought Shrine Store out of every vest in my palette. And so I'm back to wearing the same vests over and over again. And I'm really kind of bored with them. So I gotta find somebody who can make me some custom vests in the same style, but in patterns and things that are unique. So that's kind of where I'm at with that, right? But have no fear, they're not going away anytime soon. Verb to appear magically or to teleport from, oh yes, we call that bilocation, but yes. Okay, so magic and spirituality, how to deal with monogamy and choosing one woman as a man, how to deal with FOMO and having a hard time committing to just one person. Any tips on this and commitment issues in general? Well, it's interesting that you asked that because I just talked about energetic connections and things like that. So you want to look at how do your values match with this person's values? How do your loves and enjoyments match with that, right? And play with it from long term. I think it's important to remember that everyone you meet is going to have things you really, really love, and they're going to have things that really, really get on your nerves, right? And so you have to find, but a lot of it is expectations. We create expectations of others and then get mad at them for not being who we want them to be, right? Take the time to find out who a person really is and how fulfilling beyond the sex, right? How much do you enjoy actually spending time with them, having conversations with them, doing things with them that doesn't involve you taking your clothes off? Now, don't get me wrong. I'm big on sexual compatibility and stuff like that. It's one of the first products I ever put out. Still one of our best sellers today, even though I don't promote it. But there has to be more if you want something long term, right? Unless you're setting different rules and different lifestyles and things like that. So where do you guys overlap, right? You don't want to be 100% the same, but you want to be the same enough that you can do things together and commune and relate to each other and spend time together, enjoying each other's company, but different enough that you're interesting and exciting. So how do you find that balance? I start with values. I start with criteria. In other words, not only are the values important, but how are those values satisfied? Are they the same for you as the other person? What's your love language? What's your attachment style, right? These are all things that if I'm looking at a partner, again, didn't know these back in the day, but I wish I had, because it would have saved me so much trouble. Learn to identify what is your attachment style. What is your love language, right? What are your values? What are your criteria? What are the things you enjoy? What is your political orientation? What is your credit rating? The more of those boxes you can check in the other person, the more likely you're going to have a good relationship, because again, the things that would be contentious are along the same vector. And that doesn't mean opposites don't attract. Opposites attract all the time, but they rarely stick. And the more you have to change yourself to be with a person, the more taxing that relationship is going to be, and the faster you're going to burn out. That I see over and over and over again. So Patty Pacifico says, Brian Armstrong is asking, how long did it take for the positive changes to begin? I'm not sure what changes we're talking about. Jose Olivo says, voted for you. Thank you for your work. I have 2 questions. Do you still experience negative thoughts or feelings? And what do you think about John Crater's predatory energetic self-defense approach? Question number 1, do I experience negative thoughts? Yes. Do I experience negative feelings? Yes, because I'm a human being and I'm surrounded by people who do stupid shit, right? Me being one of them, right? I get nailed with bad feelings and negative feelings all the time. Why? Because we're human, and that's what we came here to figure out, right? There is no growth without discomfort. So as long as you're a passenger on the flagship Earth, you're going to be dealing with negative thoughts and you're going to be dealing with feelings. The difference is how much do they control us versus how aware of them are we and what are we doing about them, right? The idea that you're going to move through this world without experiencing a negative thought or feeling, it's just not realistic. It's not going to happen, okay? The question is, what are you doing about those thoughts and feelings when they arise? Are you suppressing them? Are you denying them? Are you expressing anger at people for something that they didn't really do, or that triggered a memory in you that you're still angry about that happened when you were 5? What's the real reason behind that expression or that energy or that emotion? What's the story that you're holding on to that's triggering that behavior? And believe me, in my particular place in life, I am getting bombarded with shit that most of you have not dealt with yet, but you will someday, right? And I'm surrounded by people. I'm in a class of 30 of them today, all clearing shit, and shit's coming up, and they're having all these energetic responses. Tomorrow I'll be in a room with 120 people doing the same thing, going even deeper into the weeds with this stuff. This is what it means to be on a spiritual path, or the path of alchemy. There's always going to be another level of stuff to clear, another level of growth that you have to deal with, right? And you're going to have to deal with them. How you choose to deal with them is the choice, right? Some people deal with it by denying it. Some people deal with it by repressing it. Some people deal with it by distracting themselves from it. Some people deal with it by taking it out on other people. Some people go in and try to find the root and rip that shit out and clean them up and move forward. They're all ways of dealing with those things. What's your choice? Okay. So I hope that answers the question. In terms of John Crater's predatory energetic self-defense, I'm not familiar with the gentleman, so I really can't comment. But if you send me a link, I'm happy to check it out. And when I have time, I'll post about it. If I think it's of value, I'll recommend it. If I don't, I'll not say anything. Right? Brian Armstrong. Let's see. Brian Patterson, how long did it take for positive changes? Okay, I got that. Patty says, okay, on self-mastery supercharger, I'm asking recommending to those who need help but not interested in deep learning. Well, first thing I would do, Patty, is I would point them at like all the free videos on the YouTube channel. That's why we put them out there. You know, one of the things you have to understand is that everybody's going to have a different level of commitment to transformation. And that's why we put out the free stuff. We need to give people good, solid material so they can test it and see if it works for them. And then as they get deeper and deeper levels of result, and they reach things that they can't maybe deal with on their own, or they need a higher level of training, then they level up. That was my approach when I created the YouTube channel, was to just show people what we do, give people the opportunity to play with it, and then have them decide when they're ready to come in to what we do. So yeah, start with the free stuff. Then speed healing energy hypnosis is a great next step. And then as they become more interested and confident, or at least getting results, then hopefully they'll be willing to invest more in themselves and take it deeper. So anyway, Brick T says, David, Do you take advantage of egregores and anything particularly interesting you find on Theurgy? I find a lot of things interesting uh, in every aspect of the mystical arts. Right? Yes, I do take advantage of egregores. In fact, all the lineages that I'm part of have very, very powerful egregores. The Reiki systems that I teach are all egregores. The only problem with egregores is they have rules, right? Some of the more like some of these lineages have really powerful guardians that if you break the rules, you get punished. So, but anybody can create an egregore if you're just willing to put enough time and energy into it. In terms of Theurgy, give me some examples of what you're talking about so I know we're on the same page. Susan. Okay, let's see here. We've already got that. Let me see. Jeffrey Lehman. I've been practicing metaframes, but need a little motivation. What's the coolest experience you've had with metaframes, like real world experiences? Okay, Jeffrey, let's clarify that we're talking about the same thing. What do you mean by a metaframe? Right? What's your definition? How are you using it? What kind of experiences are we talking about? The chosen one. I used to be able to flash my image cycle image fast, and I think it would manifest it faster. Recently, I've been able to cycle them nearly as fast. Any advice to get it back to how it was? Yeah, actually, start with the transformational triad. Go back, and if you started to slow it down, ask your higher mind if your higher mind could send you a feeling, a frequency, a vibration, or a color that would accelerate the speed and maybe even exceed your former records and how fast you could cycle. What color or colors might it send you? So clear up whatever is causing you to slow down, and then put in the new programming to speed it up. Okay. The other thing is I would recommend is that you don't get hung up. You don't get hung up on how fast you cycle, because some days you're going to be like an Olympic athlete. Other days you're going to be like Homer fucking Simpson. What's important is that you enjoy the process of cycling, not how fast you do it. Now, if you create the belief that without, the faster I cycle, the faster it manifests, that's approaching ritual. So it has to be this faster, it's not going to work, right? I would be very careful buying into that belief, right? It may not be true. Okay. So test it, play with it, have fun with it, right? If you find yourself worrying about, I'm not spinning it fast enough, that's a distraction, right? So I would be very careful with that. Valiant Brand says, nice, great egregore discussion. Good, I'm glad you guys like it. So Frank is saying, question, what is the best way / structure to pray that would be most effective? Okay, Frank, what is it you're trying to accomplish? What's the desired outcome of your prayer? Form follows function, right? If there's something you want to achieve, then the way you pray will change, right? Because most people look at prayer as placing an order with God, right? Say, God, please give me this. Please do that for me. Please help this person. And there's nothing wrong with that. But it's a very low level of prayer, right? Rick T says, Bankston comes to mind when it comes to connecting people halfway around the world. What does the energetic connection have to do with this, if any? So let me see if I, Rick T. Bankston comes to mind when it comes to connecting people halfway around the world. What does energetic connection have to do with this, if any? Bill would call it resonant bonding. Physicists would call it quantum entanglement. What is an energetic? I wouldn't call it an energetic connection. I would call it a vibrational connection, right? Because that's really what we're dealing with. Energy is actually, when you're talking about energy, you're really actually dealing with kind of like the middle manager of how the universe works. What we're really dealing with is vibration, right? And you can take the vibrational spectrum and you can distill it into 5 basic categories that all make up a human being: heat, light, sound, electricity, and magnetism. right? And the subtler the vibration, the less time bound it is. So this quantum entanglement takes place at the spaces between the spaces between the spaces. So Broody is asking, how can one train their ability to better visualize objects in their mind's eye? I've been trying to slowly better this ability, but I can't get over the idea that all I see is black when I try. Thank you. Okay, so there was a book put out many, many years ago by a lady named Shakti Gawain. It was called Creative Visualization. And a lot of it was just visualization exercises. So if you get Brands Barden's book, or some of those books on the Hermetics, they'll talk about first learn to imagine simple shapes, just simple shapes, and then colors, black and white, right? One of the things they might do is they might take an object, for example, right, and have you stare at it or hold it up to a light and just stare at it and stare at it, stare at it, and then close your eyes. And what'll happen a lot of times is you'll see like a negative image. Like if the object was white, there'll be like a white background with a black image of the thing. And you just hold that in your mind's eye until it fades. And you do that a few times. And then you try to recreate it from your mind. Other thing you do is you take simple shapes, right? And just hold it as one dimension or two dimensions, and then turn it, and then just change it in different colors, right? Make it sharper, make it more focused, move it in, move it out. These are simple exercises. You don't need to have very complex images to be effective. What you need to be able to do is manipulate those images. And that's where most people have the problem, is because they don't have, they're trying to do like Rembrandt or 4K video pictures or 4K graphics in their mind, when they're only when they should be dealing with simple geometric shapes, and then manipulating shapes, making them three-dimensional, and then practice moving perspectives and things like that. So the idea is chunk it down, make it simple, right? And the important thing to remember is you don't need, and this is I can't stress this enough because I deal with this one a lot. You don't need crystal clear images to be effective in what you're doing. You really don't. In fact, a lot of times you can get really good results with what looks like basically a big muddle of different colors, but you know what each of those colors represents, and you know what each piece is in those colors. But if you were to put it on a screen or a piece of paper, it would just look like a mass of mud. But you know what those things are. So again, everything can be trained if you're willing to put the time, energy, and effort into it, right? But because people get so hung up on the image side of thought that they let it hold them back. So I really want to stress that you just got to know what it is you're looking at. And if you can do that, then you can be effective. Friend, let's see here. Patty Pacifico, yes, I send them first to your playlist always. I just wanted to be sure that there was the best lowest cost video to recommend for PTSD, anxiety issues, and/or depression. It's a good place to start. You also might want to look into instant emergency pain relief and how to get rid of negative emotions in 9 minutes or less. Those are really good examples of the use of the transformational triad. And a lot of that is the same stuff as in energy hypnosis, speed healing. Broody says, by the way, much love, David. Have been watching your videos for some time. You've definitely given me a lot of knowledge. So just wanted to say thanks and appreciate your time and your efforts. Thank you. Thank you, Broody. Cynthia, what's going on physically when you are allergic to metals, including stainless steel? I can wear silver and gold in my hand, and that's how I can change it. How can I change it? I would start with the transformational triad and go back to the time when it's first started to become a problem. What was going on in your life, right? And when was the very first time you felt those feelings? Unpack and attack, just like we do in any form of regression, okay? Brian Armstrong, give me a thumbs up. Mr. Liam 303 says, what do you think of Dr. Jordan Peterson? I think the guy's brilliant. I haven't really seen or heard anything he's espoused that I've disagreed with. Certainly, I have not seen or listened to everything. So with that caveat, I have a pretty high opinion of the guy overall. He may not have the same about me, though. I'm not nearly as cerebral as he is. Okay, the chosen one says, much appreciated. It's Snyder. Thank you. Okay, Britt T. I heard planetary magic and angels have to do with spiritual self and not something external. Can you expand on this topic? Probably, but I'm not sure what the question is. Britt, can you ask a more clear, more specific question, and maybe I can give you some ideas on that. Nathan says, since old school game has been gone for a while, now it's natural. Would it be crazy idea to start using the mystery method? I think it would be perfect. I think the understanding of those techniques and that technology has died down so significantly that people would be wide open again. I really think a lot of the old school gaming stuff is you'd have to change the medium and modify for the mediums in which you deployed it. But I think all that old school stuff is actually quite valid. Seth says, Patty Pacifico, take out anybody design, charge whatever you want to do it on people. Okay. The chosen, can I use color breathing to remove limiting beliefs and counter it with reframing sentence and turn it into probably. If you can conceive of it, name it, and describe it, you can probably do it. My advice is test it on other people, then test it on yourself, quantify the results, and then modify from there. Let's see here. Stephen, how would you personally go about using language patterns for self-hypnosis to create an outcome or state that you want? Trying to figure out how to optimally use them best on myself. Okay, so first thing I would do is start with what I want. I would create information, cause and effect structures, and then I would add in the different Magnificent Seven plus or minus 2 language patterns to each of those information statements to make it even more presupposed. But I would start with the cause and effect complex equivalent structures that I teach in the Secrets of Human Influence webinars and how to reprogram your subconscious mind and hidden laws of attraction webinars, primarily because once you have that cause and effect structure, complex equivalent structure in place, your brain automatically processes it like a belief anyway. The minute you start adding the presuppositions in there, the awareness and the adverb adjective and the well, those are the big ones, but spatial, those were all of those, it makes it even more powerful. Okay, because your brain loves descriptions and it can't resist the cause and effect structure. So as long as you're using a cause and effect yin formation structure, all you've got to do is make a list of 10, 20, 30 suggestions of what you want and how and reasons why, and your brain will tend to grab onto them and release a lot of its energetic stores because it bypasses all of your resistance. Remember, the human nervous system never resists itself. Nathaniel says, what do you mean by modify the mediums in which you deploy it regarding the old school game? Mystery method, for example, was primarily a club art. It was, they had day game and stuff like that, but you were out in a club interacting with humans, right? A lot more dating has gone even more online than it used to. You're dealing with a lot more social media. You're dealing with a lot more video screens, a la Zoom and things of that nature. So if you're still going out and doing live in-person, face-to-face interactions and walk-ups and things like that, I don't think you had to modify it all that much. But if you're trying to do these things through chat or social media or Tinder or whatever the apps are that people are using nowadays, you're going to have to modify for that, for the way people use technology today. So that's what I mean by that. Scott Jacoby, image cycling. Do you teach it on YouTube? No. I teach, the only time image cycling training is available through my YouTube channel is to our paid members. So people are coming into the mastermind level. That's really Mastermind and Diamond Plus are only places where you get access to me guiding you through the image cycling training. If you want image cycling training, join those levels and then ask those questions at the masterminds. You can get vibrational healing, hidden laws of attraction, vibrational influence. These all teach the image cycling process. If you don't want to go that high ticket, and you just want to focus on image cycling by its creator, The Energy Cure and Hands-on Healing by Dr. Bill Bankston will teach you a form of image cycling that he developed and that I modeled mine from. Mine is a little bit, I use a few more bells and whistles than he does, because I have my NLP chops to turn up the juice on the nervous system that adds more mojo to the list. But Bill's system works amazingly well. So again, it really depends on how deep down the manifestation rabbit hole you want to go. Bill's emphasis was never on the manifestation aspect of it, right? It was always, image cycling was always a distraction to get your conscious mind out of the way, so the part of you that's in touch with spirit and source could flow unimpeded through you and create healing. The byproduct was that things on your list manifested. So again, same idea, different direction. We have a lot of healing trainings that we do, but my realization was that as a manifestation tool and a manifestation engine, the image cycling was really being underutilized, and it was not known well enough as a game changer for people. Let's see. So Frank is asking, could you give an example of high-level prayer, self-talk to best align my energy with the physical world? I don't think I know how to properly talk to myself. Okay, so let's talk about what prayer really is. Now, most people, when they go to pray, they're going and they're worshiping God. You know, please bless me, please bless so and so. Again, they're asking God for something, right? And there's a place for that. But high-level prayer isn't about you. High-level prayer isn't even about God directly. High-level prayer is about surrendering yourself, your ego, your body, your spirit to the divine, and saying to God, I just be with me. Just let thy will be my will, let my will be thy will, right? And it's about completely surrendering yourself to that higher power and just letting go and dissolving into that experience, right? And so, but the idea is to become a servant, a tool of divine power and divine will, right? And that's not something that a lot of us, you know, on a theoretical level, we get it. We're kind of, okay, I can understand in the abstract, but what does that really mean, right? Because most of us are imprisoned by the three big desires of this realm: the pursuit of money, importance, and power, right? I'm not judging it because I'm about all three. But that what we're really doing is we're trying to distinguish ourselves by having more money, having more power, having more importance. When in the truth, you were all powerful before you took on a body. You came here to experience limitation and work your way back. And so when you surrender yourself to that divine part of you, you're letting that infinite, all-powerful part work through you and accomplish things in this realm that you couldn't accomplish by yourself, right? And that's, for me, that was a real mindfuck, because I'm all about self-actualization. I'm all about personal power. I'm all about being powerful in this world, right? And that's still true. But that assumes that this world is all there is, that there isn't anything higher than it, right? And if there is things that are higher, and everything I've discovered and everything I've played with proves to me over and over again that there's more to life than just this nuts and bolts thing. So what else, if I can accomplish this with the level of connection that I have now, what can be accomplished with a deeper level of connection? And that only comes by working on your shit and surrendering to the divine forces that put you here in the first place, right? And when that happens, your armoring, your energetic protections go up, your ability to deal with things goes up. It's interesting. I first really started discovering this in the clinic, of all places, when I was doing my healing work, and people would come in, and I'd put them into trance, and they never saw me doing my little hand gestures and things of that nature, but I would just bring that energy in and say, okay, use me, right? Guide me. And I knew there was something guiding me through those processes, and miraculous things would happen. And it always felt like, people would tell me how brilliant I was. And I'm like, I didn't do anything. It's like, I got this download and I did it and it worked, because it wasn't David, at least the David that's talking to you now. It wasn't that David doing it. It was the part of David that is synonymous with source. And so one of the hardest things to do is let go. You've heard me say this before. The hardest thing to do is allow, because we're always trying to make something happen. We're always trying to do something, right? When the truth in the Chinese system, they have this thing called Wu Wei, was doing by not doing. And to make that happen, to allow that to happen, you have to let go, right? And you have to be a vessel that can contain and have the fundamental skills. But when you let go and you let that higher part of yourself flow through you, first of all, it's a rush. You bliss out, right? But everything becomes effortless. It's really interesting. We had a situation today. We were learning thunder magic, which is used for, in the clinic, it's used for dispelling stagnation, but it's also used for blasting evil spirits and blowing them out of people's bodies and stuff like that. And one of my fellow students had a very, very profound experience where she literally felt that divine energy come in, and she was literally outside of herself watching God, Shangdi, create this powerful healing experience with her partner, right? And it was amazing, because she couldn't talk about it without tearing up. It was a very profound experience. And we all crave those moments. We have this God hunger. We have this insatiable desire in us to be more, have more, do more, right? And we think we're looking for things. We think we're looking for a partner. We think we're looking for the perfect job. We're looking for more money. We're looking for more prestige or more significance in the world, right? Those are the illusions of this realm, but they're very powerful ones. And so those are the solutions that I give people, right? Pretty much every question you have, every thing you guys want to know about is going to allow you to become more powerful. It's going to allow you to become more important into somebody or to yourself in the world, to have more significance, or it's going to cause you to be able to make more money, right? And there's nothing wrong with those things, but there's more to this. There's more to you than that, right? And so the idea is when I give you techniques, I'm answering the question, the pressing question that you want to answer. And I'm giving you foundations that move you up the pyramid towards that deeper level of truth, your truth, right? Through experience, through gnosis. Yeah, I don't know why I went off on this tangent, but somebody out there needed to hear it. So I hope it's relevant, because sometimes God just comes down and it just blurts out. So anyway, I hope I answered the question, because I'm not sure what the hell it was a moment ago. Hey, Shlomo, good to see you, brother. Stephen says, thank you so much. What are your views on spiritual bypassing? NLP can copy and paste the state to solve an issue, but can it sometimes be a form of bypassing? When is it type to really feel a feeling instead of using? Okay, so let me pull back the curtain. There is absolutely nothing in the NLP repertoire of principles and techniques that is anti-spiritual. In fact, what you'll discover is that when you look at spiritual practices, Daoism, Buddhism, Christian mystical traditions, Kabbalistic traditions, all of it becomes much clearer and more understandable through the lens of NLP. One of the things that I see over and over and over again is that, where am I going with this? Everything in spirituality is either technique or surrender, right? When you are, when you're calling in you're trying to dissolve the illusion, like in the Buddhist systems where they have the home meditation, where they actually blast illusions apart and matter apart to get down to its component parts. That's a technique. Everything you're doing in spiritual and mystical practice is technique. The rest of it is surrender. Right. And so there's no such thing as bypassing, using NLP to bypass anything. What it does do is it allows you to streamline and distill a technique that is thousands of years old down to its fundamental mechanical attributes so that you have a much cleaner, much more consistent, often faster technique. Okay. So to me, NLP, as it's evolved, at least in my world, has been a lens and a filtering system that allows us to really drill down to what's important in any mystical tradition to get the results faster. But you're not bypassing anything. You're just dealing with it in a much more efficient manner. Okay. Hypnofindom Ren says, I missed the recent Zoom meeting and didn't see the recording. I'm guessing there wasn't one. Which Zoom meeting are we talking about, Hypno? I'm not sure. Valiant Brand says, that was great. Thanks, David. Valiant Brand says, was perfect. Tooth Doc says, David Cram says, awesome tangent. Thank you. Shlomo says, David, I had many tough questions and brutal experiences I'm dealing with, but you just answered all of them with the explanation of prayer. Again, I'm just a channel. I can't believe I just said that. Oh. Well, I guess I can't bag on mediums anymore, huh? All right. Stacy Smith says, thank you, thank you, thank you. All right. Finding Peace Official says, thanks so much. Keep up the amazing work. Shlomo says, thank you, love you. Love you back, Shlomo, brother. Valiant Brand, thank you for your donation. Thank you. I really appreciate the donations. I've never asked anybody to donate, and it's trust me, I love you all, right? For those of you who didn't catch it, if you're enjoying the stream, if you could cast your vote over at globalgurus.org for yours truly to be the #1 NLP guru of 2023, I would really appreciate that. If you've gotten value from our channel, if the things we teach have helped you, show your support. Again, we're a family here. I'd like to think, repeat after me, everyone. We are not a cult. Go ahead, type it in the chat. We are not a cult. We are not a cult. Right? With kudos to Mike Mandel for letting me steal that. All right. Okay, so Brick T says, hold on a second. Okay, with spiritual bypassing, not feeling your feelings. Many trauma teachers talk about embodiment and feeling all the feelings. When is it time to just feel your feelings instead of using a technique? Okay. If you really want to get technical, magic, intentionally allowing yourself to feel the feelings is a technique. Now, what happens many times is when people are letting those feelings come out, they're in a rush to get through the process. And so they resort to other techniques to try and hurry it along. So the idea is, whatever you're feeling, let the feelings come out. It's a big piece. And I think I understand what you're saying now. There's a timing element that your nervous system has to vent those emotional feelings. The idea is when these feelings come up that you've triggered, that you're purging from the body, depending on what the technique is, you have to surrender the process and just let those feelings come out. But that's technically a technique. It may be a very loose technique, but the idea is I'm intentionally letting those and expressing those feelings. So anything you do with intention is a technique. It may not have a structure, but it's a technique. So I'm getting a little neurolinguistic Aspergery on that one, but let's see here. So Brick T is asking, how can one mask the level of intensity of a girl's first time experiences romantically, as they tend to be stronger previous imprints from partners? Okay. The problem with first time experiences is their first time experiences. So what you can do is you can actually 3 magic question that person back to that experience, step into that experience at level 3 questions and link it to yourself, and then expand through language patterns and increase the intensity of it through suggestion. Okay. Dick says good because it came from one, right? Love back, finding peace official says. Someone says, you spoke to me, David. I'm flowing in tears because I was completely frozen and now you cracked open my soul again. Bravo, my friend. Bravo. Hypnofinon says, we are not a cult. Dex says, or two, LOL. David Cramp says, we are not a cult. Yay. Deb Nye says, David, so glad to be able to catch you live. Happy Tuesday, my friend. Happy Tuesday. I've got about 10 minutes before I have to go and be on yet another class in Christian mysticism. So I'll go through the questions as fast as I can. If you guys enjoyed the live, if you've got a lot of value out of it, please like and share. Go out to Global Gurus and cast your votes for yours truly. Spread the word, right? One of the things I've dramatically noticed is that inevitably, as much as I'd like to talk about picking up members of the, getting dating and love and relationships and healing and energetics and all these things, it seems that lie detection, body language, face reading, these are all things I groove on. There seems to be a trend, a strong need and desire for people who want to venture into the energetic and spiritual and mystical realms. And if that's things that people want to do, let me know. Here's the thing. In the comments section following this video, type in the kind of content that you guys want me to produce, because the more I know about what it is you want to be able to do, and what would you, and I'm going to be very, very blatant with this, right? Okay, this is almost mercenary. What would you pay money for? Right? Because yes, I have this altruistic, as much as I don't like the word altruism. There's a lot of, I'm a business person, right? And so my goal is I need to create things that you guys want and need, right? So there will always be levels to the things I create. But the more I know about what it is you want, what you're willing to pay for, the more time and energy I can put into those areas and create things for me first, if I find them interesting, and then modify it for you. So the more you can help me with that, the more I can really narrow down and zero in on the things that are going to bring value to you, if that makes any kind of sense, right? So, all right, let me go through these really, really quick. Laura Thompson, is there a manual for self-mastery? Yes, it's the Identity by Design manual. If you need one, reach out to Moss, 858-282-4663, and or Moss at nlppower.com. And ask for the manual. And as long as we can find your account, then we'll send you the manual. Brian Armstrong says, we are not a cult. What would be funny? I think it would be really funny. If everybody would take their favorite video or their favorite David meme and go to all their social media, post their favorite meme and go, we are not a cult, across the bottom. I'd probably get all kinds of pushback, but I don't know. It'd be interesting to see what happens. See if, we become the next Scientology or something. I don't know. Hypnofindom says, my handwriting has changed since my last breakup. So is that a good thing, Hypno, or a not so good thing, right? Rick T says, thank you, David. You're improving at giving good answers and connecting with viewer rather than using extremely technical terms. Yeah, I try to get away from jargon as much as possible because I think you lose connection with people the more you lapse into jargon. So I like to use words that a third grader would understand, right? First Last says, David, you made a video on the 7 most powerful NLP words. This included adverb, adjective, and awareness, and temporal, ordinal, and more. Can you explain the temporal ordinal pattern with examples? Yes, I can. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of time. I can give you the pattern, but then I wouldn't have time to unpack it. So I'll tell you what. In the comment section under this video, retype that question. And once I'm off my class and I have some time, I'll type in some examples for you that you can use, or that will kind of explain it for you. Okay. Hypnofindom says, fixing insecurity. Raise the T-bar on your T's. So if you're, I don't have time to do it here, but if this is your T-bar, the bar of your T, and your T is down here, that's low self-esteem. The higher the bar on the T goes up, the more your self-esteem will raise. So if you get in the habit of making very high T-bars, you still have to be on the stem. If you're up here, you become delusional. But down here, if you do that for 90 days, you make all of your T's with this higher T-bar, your self-esteem will go up, your self-image will go up. As also the D's, when you make your D loops, right? If you have a D, for example, right? Let me see if I can do this in a way that makes sense. So, right, so this is your D, right? Right. The higher the loop, the shorter the loop here, the less you're bothered by the decisions of other people. So if you're going to use a graphotherapy approach, a shorter stem on your D will increase your self-esteem as well. So higher T's, lower D's, right? And that'll help you rewire self-esteem and giving you a bit more resilience against criticism. But you got to do it for 90 days and you have to be diligent with it thousands and thousands of times. So Laura Thompson says, use the magic frame to preserve the lessons and let go of the hurt. Okay. Sarah, oh man, all the questions flew in at the last minute. So Heather P says, wait a minute. Okay, Mr. Liam Thrithy. Yes, Mr. Snyder, followed you for over 2 years. Liam, Stockholm, Sweden. Yay, Sweden. I'd pay anything to learn hypnosis, maybe NLP, but I'm in Sweden. Okay, we are going to start doing more hybrids. So in fact, we have an NLP certification coming up, a la David, in May of 2024. If you want to learn NLP and get certified virtually, sign up for that training. I think it's available on our website. It's called NLP Ultra. It's my NLP curriculum combined with a lot of other behavioral stuff that I've learned from Chase and from my own studies in face reading and things of that nature, as well as some of the mystical trainings. So it's NLP plus, the no BS approach, get the shit done. It's fun. Dealing with a partner that's stressed and gets triggered constantly by what you say when you don't mean it. Okay, so is this person, remember that if they're getting triggered by what you say, it's not about you. Guaranteed that everything you're doing is a landmine planted in their past by somebody else that they're reliving and projecting onto you. So they need to be the ones dealing with that stuff. Okay. Right. Unless you guys you're just karmically opposed to each other, 99% probability that's what's going on. Okay. See here. So David says, it seems a little conflicting and tricky to access a girl's past and not muddy the present moment. Okay, I'm losing that question. All right, guys, there's lots of questions here. Link to my website. Sure. http://www.nlppower.com/, go to events. Nathan, I don't know if I'm going to have another attraction mastery, probably unlimited lover, unless there's a really, unless it's like, probably not, but anything's possible. I said I was never going to certify people virtually, and look where I'm at. So unlimited lover is a very popular program. It's just anytime I start to bridge into the realm of sexuality, man, people get so nuts about sex and they get really triggered. So I would love to teach those courses, but my hashtag sensitivity, getting hashtagged and people going crazy and going off the deep end with these things it's something we all need, but there's so much liability in it. I would love to teach it more often to people who actually want to learn it, not just, and I would only do it with co-ed audiences. If all men are going to show up, I don't want to teach it. If all women are going to show up, I don't want to teach it, because I think men and women need to be able to talk about and experience these things in a safe environment where they can truly understand how the other gender works. So, and I don't care what your sexual preference is, but we need to create safe environments where people can discuss these types of topics and explore them in a way that's healthy. Right. And until I'm confident that can happen, I'm going to be very, very I'm going to keep those things, no pun intended, close to the vest, right? You can get them through the video trainings. But I'm not against it as long as the people show up and they follow the rules, right? Isn't IBD a prerequisite for NLP Ultra? No, not anymore. Link to your website. I think I put that in there. Chase Hughes, yes, David. Brian Armstrong, I'm leaning towards how to use and read body language. Okay, I think that's a great study. I love body language. I love face reading. I love anything to do with profiling and predicting and influencing human behavior. It's my first love. Thanks again for the stream. Have a good night and cheers from Seattle. Cynthia says, thank you for the sex teaching ethics. The door number 170 says, David, this is Camille. I recently fell for this girl. She's amazing and want to know what I can do to keep her. Find out her values, find out her criteria, and embody them, right? Make every time you're with her the most romantic, thrilling, exciting, satisfying experience she's ever had. Never let her think she completely has you, right? The moment they think they completely have you, then you become predictable, then you become boring, they lose respect for you, and they're gone. So keep the fun, keep the excitement, find out, embody all the things that she finds physically, intellectually, emotionally stimulating, as long as they're in harmony with who you want to be, who you are. And every time you make love, program her for greater and greater levels of fulfillment and satisfaction, and things will just get better. Okay. Scott Jacoby says, is the training plan at the end of 6MX, or would you recommend a different method of learning that material? Chase is probably the best expert on his approach to reading body language. I found some tremendous value in a bunch of the things in 6MX. Not all the things that he teaches, I think, are the bee's knees, right? But blink rate, shutter speed, these two things I find to be exceptionally valuable. So I would definitely take those two, right? Gestural hemispheric tendencies are pretty useful. I have to look more at it, but I would start with the basics. Most of the people I've seen who've done, again, at the risk of sounding like I'm tooting my own horn, the students who I have seen do best in Chase's world came through Killer Influence and CPI training. Literally, most of his top students were in my silo at one time, right? Again, I'm probably going to piss some people off by saying that, but there's some tremendous synergy between Chase's systems and my systems. In fact, if you have the CPI model, everything he teaches becomes almost immediately accessible, right? So there's tremendous amount of good stuff there if you have the platform to deliver it. And he'll tell you the biggest factor in all the material he teaches is the operator. Can the person who's learning the material actually deploy the material? And that's what CPI and Killer Influence is about doing. It's about getting this shit into you in a way that you can just riff and own whatever comes your way, right? So yes, you can cancel you can cancel any of their memberships at any time. There's no long-term contracts in anything. As soon as you figure you've gotten what you need and you feel it's time to move on, you can just cancel it. And again, some people come in for a month. Some people have been in it for 5 or 6 years. Right? Oh, Jesus. Okay. I keep doing transformational try to get rid of a negative thought pattern, but it keeps coming back. Is there a way I can completely get rid of the negative thought? You're going to have to regress to cause, Joseph. Chances are, if the thought keeps coming back, there's something deeper it's connected to that you're not accessing. Okay. Chainsaw says, I need to hear that I needed to hear that divine downloads last few years. It feels like a fire hose blasting these energy downloads to the outside world. You're nuts. To the outside world, you're not. Yes. That's one of the things I love about where I'm at right now with the energetic trainings and stuff like that. And even in Planet David is you can be amongst your people. You can be amongst people who you can talk about these things and not feel like you're going to get burned at the stake or be weird or ostracized or whatever. Okay. Guys, I'm sorry, I have to go. If I didn't get to your question, please type it in the chat. I promise you tonight or tomorrow, I will circle back and I'll try to answer those questions. If you haven't voted for NLP Guru, or you need to go to our website, http://www.nlppower.com/events, or you can just cruise around the site. We have a huge product store. If you have questions about products, you can call 858-282-4663. I love you guys. I will talk to you very, very soon. I am 5 minutes late for my class, and I hope they let me in. Love you guys. Take care.